welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, and I'm joined by my very good friends. First of all, we do not have Justin Sandoval tonight.
Nope.
The quitter, Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy himself, is not here, but we do have my boy Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. And, of course, we got Apple Zach's Zach Markham here with us as well. We're missing you, Justin. We miss you terribly. Yeah, another one bites the dust, boys.
Yep.
Yeah, it's me last week, Justin this week.
Yeah, you took a week off.
Yeah. Who's it going to be next week? The world may never know.
You got any plans next week?
Nope.
Shamato? Well, thank you to all of our listeners, all the viewers, everybody who is watching or listening to this pod. We appreciate you. We are excited to bring you a review of Rings of Power episode number 7. I believe it's 7.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 7.
Yep.
And it's titled The Eye.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, always got to double check live on the pod. But before we get into our review, we just want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening, wherever you are watching, whether it's on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Please subscribe. Hit the like button, leave a comment, leave a review. All of these things help us out tremendously. And also sharing this podcast with any friends you have helps us out. So please do that on behalf of me and my wonderful co-host, and of course Justin, who, like I said, is not here because
Has abandoned us.
he's a loser.
Yep.
Yes, but no, it's okay. We forgive you, Justin. Although we do miss you. Well, boys, you excited to talk about Rings of Power?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we start off in this episode. By the way, spoiler warning. Here's your spoiler warning. We literally start off like right where we left off.
Yes.
I mean, the sky is red. There's burning ash everywhere.
Yep.
I mean, it was a horrifying start.
Yes.
They just dropped us in, man.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of like the we haven't kind of a whole lot in media the showing of, but like the bombs being dropped on like Nagasaki and Hiroshima in World War II. It reminded me a lot of that, to where it was just like this moment of pure and utter like terror, and you're just consumed by the explosion that's been, spilling out of this volcano.
Right. Yeah, you're shell shocked in a sense.
Oh yeah, entirely.
Like I feel like they did it very well, where they pick up exactly where they left off with the last episode, because it's such like a chaotic event that's going on. You have no idea where anyone's at. Like, to pick yourself up from that, like she's like just covered in ash, like when she first wakes up, and like you don't know who's dead, who's alive, like, and you have to take all that in. It was a really cool scene, and then just like picking up and moving on from there.
Yeah. I really like how they focused on her to start with, and they didn't really show anyone else, because I felt like it was in a way of like, it was a way of making her feel alone and isolated.
Correct, yeah.
And literally just showing no one else on screen to start with.
Yep.
Even though, there were people around, but it's a very like, it's a moment of just you like you said, you're shell shocked. It is just, your every sense is completely overwhelmed. And then also you have to think about it, with her being an elf, she has enhanced senses. So like you got to think on top of a regular human's reaction, like, well, I mean, like we learned in the previous episode about the eyesight differences between a human and an elf. And so like her eyes have to be just like strained so much further, and so everything, even their hearing is better, so like she is just like, everything is on overload, and just everything is just like pounding at her all at one time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. It just felt like a state of disarray,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I figured it was Galadriel, but like right when it started, she was so covered in ash, and the screen was just red. I was like, I couldn't really tell. Again, I figured it was, but I mean, I was like, man, it's chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And now, like, this traumatic thing happened, and they have to pick themselves up and get to wherever they're going as soon as possible, because now their enemy's on the move. So now, like, the sun is blocked by, this cloud of ash.
Yes.
Orcs can travel during daylight now. So now they have to, like, figure out what survivors they have left and get to a safe destination to, like, regroup and, like, plan their next defense or their next attack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see where it goes, it goes from there, so.
And it really is a difficult political situation because you really think about all these people from Numenor who came to the aid
Yep.
and basically just got annihilated in a lot of ways, while trying to help these people who they really didn't have any I mean, they do have allegiance to them because they are man and there have been some connections to them before, but the current age didn't really have a whole lot of connection to them. Actually, for the most part, they had actually had more of an animosity relationship with them traditionally because Numenor famously backed the elves, whereas the humans in the Southlands had backed up Morgoth. So I mean, the fact that they were even there in the first place was a lot, and then you have this catastrophic event while you're there, and it makes it seem like you're why were you doing this? What did we potentially gain in this situation at all, really? And it really kind of also throws a huge wrench into the plans of is he the cousin of the king, or is he the cousin of the queen regent? Who the guy with the long hair, who basically he's the speaker of. He's one of the main two people running the Numenor at the moment.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so because one of the main reasons why he wanted to get back at them or wanted to help, or was willing to help, was because of the fact that he felt like they would open trade. There'd be a quid pro quo set up, as in set up to where the Southlands, once they got back on their feet, they would be able to engage in trade, be
almost reliant on Numenor.
Yes, yeah, become more reliant on them. Well, in a lot of ways, there's nothing there for them to trade or give back.
The Southlands are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's. I mean, not to give spoiler alert, it literally gets erased from from the record books in a way.
Yeah, they're not on the map anymore.
Yes, literally. But. Yeah, so it kind of creates another situation from that political point of view where, that relationship is now, even that side of it's kind of destroyed in a way too.
Yes, and you might hear Beanie, my dog, the pod dog, has found a squeaky toy. So, despite it being 9:45 p.m. Local time, she is rocking and rolling.
It's just to get out a little bit of that anxiety from all that tense nature from that explosion,
Yeah,
for sure. Well, anyways, let's we'll try to stay focused. Gonna continue on. She's literally at my feet. There you go. Yeah. So I mean, things are in disarray.
Yes.
People are trying to get clear of the smoke, clear of the ash. Can you imagine what it would be like to breathe? I feel like it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, it would be like a suffocating sensation, going on as they're trying to cope.
It looks so red and gray and dark. I'm just like, I know it's a show, but I'm like, man, if this was real, people wouldn't be able to breathe or see.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of after effects. People don't really think about that kind of stuff. They think of the initial death count, but they don't really think of the way that people are affected further down the line in these situations. Where just getting down to the simple idea, it could literally cause you to have asthma related down the line. It could end up with you having different type of lung issues down the line. So you end up with a lot of stuff that ends up affecting you further down the line. And we even see kind of one of the effects, happening to the Queen Regent.
Yeah, going blind.
Yeah. So that was a good scene. The way they did that too, I was like,
yes,
good
the
acting.
reveal was
good.
Was really, really good. And it was really cool seeing her you see her as this. You see her jumping in in this episode and really trying to be there for her people and being there for the people that she is trying to help. Still, she is there and going into that building to try to help that entire family get out, or that all those people get out of that building so that they're not. A whole bunch of people don't die, and in that moment, she loses her. She literally loses her eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's tough. So she showed a lot of, strength, just
leadership.
Leadership. Yeah, you could tell she seems like she's going to be
Compassion,
a very important figure moving
And
forward.
then you see a lot from her in this episode. Like it's a really important episode. There are a couple of things in it that you really see from her that are like really like see a lot of strength in her, a lot of leadership, a lot of stick-to-itiveness, in it. With the way that she is at the end, like because she could have been like, you know what, hands off. We fought and we did our best, but this is a lost cause.
We're heading home.
Yeah,
Never
like
coming back.
She could have been like that, but she was like, no, this is. We want this back. Like this is.
Yeah.
We're not going to take this.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of that with her, like a lot of pros, but then like for someone like Ellen Dill, there's a lot of cons, like with their character development. Like obviously, like he's in some sort of pain and like upset at the fact that because he thinks his son's dead.
Yeah.
Or lost. So like you see like his character kind of like go down, like he just wants to go back to Numenor and like
you kind of see him do like he makes almost a turn because up until this point he had been one of the strongest proponents of the elves in Numenor, but you see him kind of like take a turn toward against that, and he has this moment that's just just destroys him, as a father because he believes that his son is dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a very rough situation for him. But I think they kind of do hint at they hint multiple times. I think at the fact that he might, that he's still alive.
Yeah, totally.
Well, he has to be alive, right?
He is,
yeah.
but like they do some hinting and stuff like that. I feel like the whole way the horse reacted throughout the episode is a way to show it. I think it's almost a way to like
the horse is gonna go get him or something.
They had made a point to like that there's a connection between the two, and I feel like that's kind of their way of saying like there's still that connection. Like so he's still alive.
Yeah,
Barrick is going to go find him for sure.
Yeah.
All right, there's my dog again. So normally she does not squeak toys this long, but she really liked Rings of Power this week, guys. So
yeah.
So what do we do this? We'll break the episode down literally in 3 different ways. So I think we'll just camp out here with the Southlands, Numenor, the volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that happened there. But then we'll also talk about the Harfoots here soon. And also, we got the dwarves and Elrond to talk about, which is exciting.
It was an intense dwarf scene, too.
Yeah. So instead of just like bouncing back and forth, we'll just kind of go one at a time. So what else of interest with Numenor, with the Southlanders, right? Southlanders?
Yeah. I do think it was interesting to see the whole situation with so Isildur had his 2 friends that went off to war with him, and it was almost like they wrote his like death sentence in the last episode when he was like, it was kind of the old trope of like, oh, I'm retiring in a couple days, and then you die.
Enough fighting for me for a lifetime.
Well, and you'll just like you die like right before retirement,
right?
And I felt like that's what happened to the one guy because he was like, you know what, I've seen enough battle for a lifetime. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, and technically he did. He saw all the battle that he was going to see in his lifetime.
This guy, brutal.
So, and he ends up unfortunately dying in the explosion.
Yeah.
In the eruption. So that was I was when I heard that I was like, oh, it doesn't sound good for him. I was not thinking that there would be the best situation for him, and unfortunately, it ended up being that way. So that was very interesting. He had the whole situation with Theo and Galadriel and them kind of building up. Theo is
he's growing on me.
Oh, is he?
He's growing on me.
I don't know. I still feel like he's unfortunately getting like the chosen one treatment in it. Yeah. I'm not necessarily liking it at the moment. I feel like he's constantly being given credit for doing more than he really is, and like these peak characters who are like, in my mind, I feel like there's these characters that are doing a lot more that are like kind of like deferentially like giving him praise, like Galadriel giving him praise and Arondir giving him praise. I just feel like there's just a little bit too much like of this unnecessary praise being given to him as a character.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
But he's growing on you.
Yeah, he's growing on me. So like at first he was very bratty. In my opinion, like he was, didn't want to listen to anybody, didn't want to listen to reason. But now with his experience with Galadriel and everything, I think he sees like what he wants to be, and what he wants to like prove like to his people and to like the land that was once his. So I'm curious to see like what kind of training he's willing to go through, what kind of like character development. It definitely seems like he's going to be more involved with Arendir.
Yeah.
With training and stuff, where before like their relationship was kind of also
restrained.
rocky
Yeah.
start. So
I do think he made a little bit of growth at the end as he found his. I feel like it would have been a really, like, to tell you the truth, insufferable experience with him if his mother had actually been dead. Like in that scene, if his mother had actually been dead, I felt like he would have just went off into this angsty deep end of like stupidity, basically. So I'm really glad that didn't end up happening.
He almost did with those orcs that were hunting.
Oh yeah, well, and
then,
see, that's one of the parts that was like kind of annoying. It was like he was willing to just like run out into this and like basically give away his position. And you know what would have happened? He would have ran out there, got himself in trouble, and then Galadriel would have had to save him.
Crushed every orc nearby.
And then, like, it would have been a rough situation. It would have been an unnecessary situation. And then at the end, she would have been like, "Well, you took out more orcs than most humans could." It would have been something like that. He would have gotten like an unnecessary. He would have gotten like unnecessary praise.
Yeah,
like where like or he would have gotten the final kill, even though she would have taken out not like 10, and then he would have taken out the final one, and then he would have gotten like a moment for like a hero pose.
Well, the final one would have like been injured, like just wheezing like on the ground, and he just goes in for the final kill.
Or what would have happened was Galadriel would have been fighting, and then all of a sudden you would just see him like stabbed it through the back, and he would have gotten his hero moment. And it's like, oh, well, congratulations, you stabbed a dude through the back. Like, that's how I feel like it would have turned out. And all of a sudden it would have been like, oh, that was a great kill you got there. And it would have been like, yeah, but, yeah. I just feel like he's getting, like, the chosen one treatment. And, I mean, maybe that's his path. But I just feel like that's just what he's being, like, played off right now. And in general, I don't like chosen one characters.
Yeah, when a character is just forced down your throat like that.
Well, like that, and they're just like they're always like they're given unnecessary praise. They're given like way more than they really deserve. Characters that are like significantly more powerful than them or significantly wiser than them have like this like deferential treatment for them getting this thing that's like super simple lots of times. Like I just don't. I'm just not a huge fan of like chosen one character. Like I'm just not.
Yeah.
Like they're just. To me, they're just, I don't know. They just, their destiny, I guess, maybe it's just too, like, laid out and, like, to the T to where, like, it doesn't feel like they could go anywhere else,
I feel that, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in season 2, we're going to get, like, he's going to be this incredible character who saves the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. It better, because the way they're building him up.
Or he becomes a villain.
Or which I've thought that a few times already.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I felt like he was going to do, or at the very least, I thought he was going to do something real dumb. Yeah. Which he kind of did. He did. But I feel it was. I will admit, it was less dumb than I was really expecting.
Save his mom, right? Like ultimately,
like I felt like he was literally going to be like, "Oh, go off with that dude," and like maybe be the dude who starts the flood. Like I was expecting something dumb like that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like I understand saving your mother's life, like. I'm okay with you doing something that kind of dumb, but like, I was expecting something significantly dumber than that.
Well, let's see. The everyone regroups at the encampment they had.
Yeah.
Numenor is going to be leaving, but there's going to be some people who are going to be helping the Southlanders get to a place by the sea. Apparently, like a former colony of Numenor, maybe. And then we see that Halbrand is still alive, barely.
Yep.
And
survived.
Yeah, he had survived, and he is going to be. He's going with Galadriel, I guess. To where are they going? To her place?
Yeah, like they're going back to the elves.
Yeah, going to the elves.
She's going back to the elves to
get some medicine for him.
talk to the king first of all about the situation and to get him some medicine, very similar to what she does to Very, very similar to what Aowen, or not, is it Aowen? Gosh, I can't remember her name. Anyway, what she does to Frodo, where she just runs him off to River Run to get some elven medicine to help him.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Well, it was. I think we can kind of close that chapter, and maybe we can talk about the Harfoots.
Sure.
You guys down to talk about the
Let's
Harfoots?
bring it on.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Stranger, the Harfoots. They finally catch up to the rest of the group, but they show up and they're there's like a bunch of trees. That
Yeah,
are
the
like
grove has been
destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, does that have anything to do with like what's happening in now Mordor? Like, I mean, I'm assuming.
Oh
it
yeah,
does.
100%.
Yeah.
I believe.
Okay, like how? Someone explain that to me then.
So with the eruption, I guess there was like rocks, or it seemed that there was like rocks that shot from the volcano,
Like in all directions.
Yeah, that went in all directions, and it reached that the grove of where they were going.
Okay,
to,
okay.
to migrate and
I mean,
everything.
when I looked it up, like the general radius is about 20 miles for an explosion, and it can reach up to sometimes 100 miles. So I mean, I could see them still being pretty far away, but just catching some of like the edge where it's literally just the rock that is getting,
yeah.
getting sent out. They're not getting any of the extra stuff, but they're getting some of the remnants of the volcanic eruption that just happened.
All right. So that's how some of those trees, because it wasn't all of them, but it was a lot of them.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was actually kind of cool too how Sadok. I guess
I love him, by the way.
Yeah, he's really cool. With the grove being on fire and those rocks coming, from the Southlands and everything, meant that there was like a new evil that's been awakened. He made that comment. So that I guess this is now like how everyone becomes aware of what happens with the Southlands turning into Mordor, essentially. So it's kind of curious to see how that's going to affect each individual race and like different, parts of the map and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, because in a way we haven't really been thinking about it, but we've been noticing the Harefoots in the way that the Harfoots is the way they've been migratory. Well, is the creation of Mordor and all that stuff, is that what's going to drive them to be more of a sedentary race in general?
Yeah.
Are they going to get to the point to where the idea of them roaming around, or the places they used to roam around to, have been destroyed to the point to where they can't do that anymore, and they have to settle down.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that affects their potential movement.
Because they become the hobbits, right? Like in time.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So that explains why eventually, they'll have to settle. Let's talk about old boy, the stranger.
Yes.
Old man Gray. He's over there touching the tree.
Yes.
Saying some chants.
Mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, and I can't figure him out, right? Because like it looks evil when he's like saying these chants.
Yeah.
It feels dark, but he's bringing that tree back to life.
Well, it's
Right?
and it's weird because it's like in like initially it looks like whatever he did doesn't work, and like because the one branch falls
off
because of that stupid Harfoot who decides, and he almost gets hurt, and then he ends up
let me
leaving.
go run under this dead
Yes,
tree.
yeah, like like the stupidity of that would end up getting basically like kind of ostracized out for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it really is. I feel like they're doing a really good job of making you like giving you information on both sides. Like you're like, now this looks like he's doing something good. This looks like he's doing something bad. Like where is he falling on that line? And sometimes it looks like he's doing something bad, but for something good. And sometimes it looks like he's doing something good, but it turns out bad. Like for what happened with the tree, he was trying to do something good, but something bad happened during it with the huge tree ants falling. So it's interesting to see how that's playing out.
Yeah, it seems like right now, like his intentions are good, and
Yes.
I believe that he's going to be an ally, to the Harfoots or to Man or like whoever he's going to be helping. But right now, he's in control of his powers, so his powers seem like very like unstable at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
it reminds me a lot of like a superhero who like is when they first develop their powers, and there's a lot of that. There's that montage scene that you're seeing where like they had to figure everything out, except that this is playing out in the more like, in a lot of times in like the sadder way of how that's set up. It's not like you're seeing Spider-Man learn his powers and swinging around the city. You're seeing this guy kind of stumble through learning how to give life back to things and fight off.
Accidentally almost killing people.
Yes. Which, I mean, to tell you the truth, that's the kind of stuff that would actually happen if you were trying to become a superhero.
Yeah.
Like when we were watching Miss Marvel, when she was trying to save the boy on the watchtower, every intention was to save that boy without him falling and hurting himself. But, I mean, very similar to what happens with the stranger.
Yeah.
Where you could tell every intention was supposed to be good, but the outcome wasn't necessarily as, black and white good as we would like it to be.
Right.
Yeah, so they wake up the next morning and all the trees are alive. They're all blossoming overnight.
Yeah.
Apples everywhere. I mean, things are good.
Yep.
Right? So it's clearly the stranger who did it.
Yeah.
Okay, but then they go the next night, like they're going to bed. And what are we going to call these three? Are they witches? Are they magicians? Are they wizards? This is me showing my ignorance with like source material.
Albinos.
Albinos, sure. Like I have. What are we going to call them on this pod? Just so I know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking witches. They got witch hands. It looks like they got witch hands, bro.
Yeah.
They got Wanda. They got Wanda.
Sure, we can
hands.
call them witches.
Yeah. All right. These three white witches show up.
I would say warlock. Like they're mixed. Like you have, I think one's a witch, and then the other two are like warlocks or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
They're the Sanderson sisters. In homage to the new Hocus Pocus movie coming out. It's really just a crossover. It's just really just a big crossover.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they go to the tree. They see the tree that he touched, and this is where it's like they're clearly hunting this guy, but I can't figure out if like they're hunting him to eliminate him, or if they're hunting him to like bring him into the fold.
Or control him or something like that.
Control him.
Like, it is interesting because it's almost like, the way you're seeing him is like, without the reference, you don't know, like, is this a situation where, is he considered like a force, and are they like almost like a police force for like this, like, they could be a police force for like these magical entities where they're, objective is to like search out these things and control them or stop them from potentially hurting other people, or they could be potential villains as well where their intentions are not pure, but you just like, once again, it's very much on the line, like in both directions. It seems like they could be good, they could be bad, and part of it's going to depend on where the stranger turns out too. Like his ambiguity is also making them be very ambiguous about their actions.
Yeah. So
I imagine like right now, like in the just going along with the timeline, there are no wizards as of yet. That's my guess. So I think there's going to be like this magical maybe like this dark organization that's probably with Sauron, because Sauron being like or Morgoth or whoever is the only one that's able to like wield such power. And so I'm thinking they're going to be in some sort of like alliance with him to hunt down any like magic sensitive people.
Yeah.
And eliminate them and get them out because they pose a threat to like what they're trying to do.
Yeah, man, I genuinely have no idea what's going on there. It's interesting, and then it's heartbreaking because they completely burned down the Harfoot's entire livelihood.
Yeah,
their means of transportation, all the food that they just had right there.
Yep.
I mean, they just burn everything. I mean, it's heartbreaking. But we're gonna get one more journey in the finale because a squad of Harfoots are heading out to find the stranger.
Yep.
So I'm anticipating. I think that like the stranger's gonna end up having to fight those three witches. I think.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. So that's my call. Calling it here.
I could see it. Yeah.
I really have no idea. Basically, if you're watching this or listening, and you're like, man, this T-roll guy, he doesn't know anything about this stuff. You are correct. I don't know anything. All I know is that the show has been remarkably entertaining. And I'm here for it. So
it's been quite enjoyable so far.
Very enjoyable. Okay, let's talk about, to me, the most enjoyable part of this episode, the dwarves and Elrond. I loved just about everything that happened. I thought the acting here was remarkable. I mean, the story was remarkable, and then just seeing the the relationship between Durin and his father, the king. I mean,
Yes.
man, this was intense. So, yeah, I'll let you guys go first, though. I mean, like anything that stood out with, basically Elrond making it back to the mountain. I don't know what the name of their lair is called, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed the scene. I feel like it really showed the bond and then the friendship between Elrond and Durin, and also like it showed like the political side. Like Durin wants to help his friend, but everything has to go through like his father, the king.
there's a
Yeah.
ton of racism here.
Yeah, so there's like a long history of
Hate, distrust.
hate, distrust, all that stuff. So you're gonna have to like chisel away at all of that to get to the heart of the point of why Elrond's going there. So, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I feel like there was some really like interesting scenes, some really good scenes in this, and like you said, like a lot of good acting.
Yeah. And I think it was like, it's really hard for Durin because he's in a really, he's in between a rock and a hard place, like to the point to where, like, he really wants to help out his friend and he understands what it means if his friend isn't helped.
Correct.
But he also understands his position as the son of the king is part of it is to be in line with the king. Like, you know, whether the king is right or wrong, part of what
king.
part of what he has done, especially because he's in such a position of power.
Yeah.
It's so you have to keep at least the heirs that there is a the king has the final say. In this, so you can't be contradicting him in front of other people, and things like that. So it's hard for him because he understands like what this actually means. And I think up until the scene where they're at the table, he's a little bit like he is that way, but he's also understands like that he needs to side with his race in a lot of ways. And then at the scene at the table, he's like, it was the definitive like moment of him seeing that because I think at the moment there's this distrust between the dwarves and the elves because elves are kind of generally can be untrustworthy sometimes. I think at least the dwarves see it that way.
Yeah.
And in some ways they're not wrong.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, like they're very much the race that kind of thinks they're better than everyone else, so they kind of manipulate the other races to do their bidding in certain ways.
Yep.
So I understand that in a lot of ways, but it's up until this point there was kind of like this ambiguity about, well, is it really about saving their race, or is it about getting this super rare
mineral
material that can be used to make incredible armor, and
It's called mithril.
mithril. Yes.
Mithril, yeah.
Okay. And he sees it like heal the leaf.
Yes, and he sees it heal the
Yeah.
leaf. That is like, and that's the moment. That is the moment where like it crosses the line for him to where it is definitive proof. He has seen it with his eyes that this is something that can heal the race that is the elves.
Yeah.
And that it isn't just, maybe there's some, still a little bit of trickery on the elven part, but it is very real that this thing can save the elven race.
Yeah, and I think that there's two different sides of perspective here. One, you have Durin, who's doing it to literally save his friend, which later he calls, like, he might as well
brother.
be a brother.
Yes.
And then you see it from, like, the king's point of view, where, like, he's looking at it to save not Elrond, but the elves. And when he's probably thinking of it, he's probably thinking of, like, the trickery,
Yes.
the backstabbing, like, all the, political, like, racism that's going on between the elves. It's fate to him. Like it is what it
He
is.
said
good riddance.
He called
pretty
them
much.
cheating death.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think it's a little bit, yes, the elves and the dwarves, when there are great evils that arise, they have been able to, join together and fight. But at the moment, there is no great evil to their mind. They're not really the rise of Sauron and isn't really on there.
They don't really know what's going on.
They don't really know anything about that. So at the moment, if you really think about it from a political standpoint, the dwarves, even if it's extremely advantageous position to not do that because you are putting your race in a position of power to where you can very easily become the dominant race in Middle Earth.
Yep.
To their knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, T-Sweat would be so proud of you guys chiseling away. You said between a rock and a hard place. I mean,
Yes.
you guys are on fire tonight, man.
Thanks.
You guys are on fire. I thought the scene with Durin and his dad was just incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the acting and the way that they were just going back and forth. Man, I was getting into that scene.
Yes.
It was powerful.
It was a really good scene, and like there were, and I think one thing that really helped is there were parts of it where like the king was making some really good points. Like, so it wasn't just this one-sided situation where the king was just being completely bullheaded, and there was no like at all give or like it wasn't where everything that he was saying was just completely off the point of reality. It was he was making some decent points about like what is important to the people and standing with your people and making choices about what is best for best for dwarven culture. Is partially because he's trying to tell him like when you are king, you like your first responsibility is to the dwarves. Like you are like when you are not the king, you can have the luxury, potentially of being friendly or having friends or, things like that are maybe other races. But once you are the king, you have to be 100% in on protecting your people first and foremost. And he feels like at this moment that what Prince Durin is trying to do is not necessarily what is best for the dwarven culture as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to some extent, you can't blame him.
No.
Right? And that's what made that scene so just powerful.
Yeah. I mean, even like when they were saying what they would give him, he was like, he seemed very like, that's a pretty good offer if you can, if you can keep it.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I mean, I think even in that moment, they're very much like, okay, well, cool, but, we've obviously had some mistrusting moments in our previous history. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So how about when Durin and Elrond are chiseling away some more?
Yes.
And they break a hole into basically this massive crater where you can see deep down into the depths of the mountain. And you could see a ton of mithril going every which direction.
Yes.
Yep.
And that was wild.
Yeah.
All right. So, but my question is, at the end of it all, the king takes that leaf, he throws it in there, he says, "Seal it up." The leaf traveled. I felt like I was watching a Disney movie where it's like this leaf is going miles and miles and miles,
Yeah.
just following it forever, and eventually it lands.
Yep.
And I thought, like, I don't know. I thought like a tree might have grown.
That's what I was thinking.
I was thinking a tree
that's
was
what
going
I
to grow.
thinking.
Seriously, with that leaf. Instead, quite the opposite. The thing burns to a crisp.
Man.
And then what the hell did I just see there?
A Balrog.
Yeah.
What was that?
So it's the same. I think it's the same thing that Gandalf fights.
Okay, yes,
in Lord
yes.
of the Rings,
It's
right?
it's
Okay.
it's what he fight. Now whether it's the same one or not, I don't know.
It looked like it was
But-
from hell, straight up.
But yeah, that's what it's a Balrog is what it is. It is. It's also the same type of. It's the same type of beast that the elf was fighting when Mithril was created in that creation story.
Okay.
So remember they were fighting over the tree, and like
Yep.
that. What he was fighting was a Balrog.
Well, that doesn't look pleasant.
It does not.
Now, another reason, to some extent, you might not blame the king for how he feels, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he knows about that, but
I mean, I doubt he knows, but he knows there's a lot of danger to the whole idea of mining. I mean, mining is a dangerous job, and they know that.
Abusing the mountain.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And from what we've seen in the Lord of the Rings series, like this Balrog could literally like wipe out all the inhabitants like in that mountain.
Yeah.
Like it can cause some like massive destruction going on. It's
crazy.
And it ultimately would have been Durin's fault
Yeah.
if they they went farther than what they would have. So.
I'm very intrigued to see what happens next. I don't know how much we'll get of that in the finale. I don't know how much we're going to have to wait for season 2 to see what happens there. But again, that whole storyline was fascinating to me.
Yes.
And we had to wait 2 weeks for it. Remember, we didn't see anything but the battle from last week.
Yeah.
So, all right, listen, we've been going for about 40 minutes, so we're going to cut it off here soon. What other thoughts you guys have on the episode you want to discuss?
I think it was really important because of what maps mean in the Lord of the Rings universe and the literal rewriting of the map of the Southlands.
Yeah, same exact font, but it wasn't on a map. It was like you see the footage in a sense, right?
Yes, like
it's crazy.
and it's like kind of like burned away, and then it comes back in Mordor, which it would have been really cool to hear him say it, but it was really cool.
I thought he was going to say it.
I thought he was too, but then they just do like. And then it said the Southlands are like, oh, they're just going to show us. And it just like, bam. It said Mordor. So that was super cool to see.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I'm curious to see where Isildur's at. I don't know if he's going to be like probably taken captive. Probably might be a prisoner, or like he might have ran off.
Escaped a different direction.
Escaped a different direction. Where
it did look like the orcs were in the area where he got he was covered up.
Yeah,
so
under that house.
So I think he'll either get captured or it'll be one of those situations where he's kind of having to be like behind enemy lines type of situations.
I feel like they might presume him dead. There's so many dead bodies there. Might just be another dead body under some debris.
Yep.
Yeah.
They might not. They might just kind of casually look over him.
Yep.
And then he'll find a way to escape and run away,
I mean, that would be an interesting idea if he's like piled up with all the bodies and then he wakes up and he has to like try to like escape like a pile of dead bodies. That would be
intense.
Yes, it will be intense. Yeah. Well, I think that'll just about do it. So next week we will review the finale of Rings of Power, season 1 of the show. Do we know how many seasons there are? Is it 2 or is it more than 2?
I've heard that there could be as many as 6, but
let's go.
I think right now there are 2 that are pretty much confirmed.
All right, sweet. Well, if the quality continues to be like this, there will be 6. Yeah. It might even be more.
Yeah, maybe 6 in a movie.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope so. That was good. That was really good. All right. Yeah, I mean, this has been an amazing show, and Amazon has done a great job. So I was really. There's a lot of people that are skeptical about it. There's a lot of diehard fans who haven't even watched it yet because just, some Lord of the Rings fans can be very dedicated, if you will, to the source material.
Protective of the source material.
Protective is a good word, yeah. So, and I get that. But like I said earlier, I don't know much about the source material. So I'm just here. I'm here for the thrills. So with all that in mind, big shout out to all of our listeners, all of our viewers. We appreciate you guys so much. Please come back next week. We will review the finale. Please share this podcast with your friends. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, and please come on back. So with all that in mind, for my good friends Shamato and Apple Zax, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening and watching the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time. You peasants.